Picture yourself as the underdog of off-roading, charging through muddy bogs and splashing through slush like you are the king of the wilderness, but on a budget. Well, if you fancy that idea, the Force Gurkha might just be your trusty steed, and now there's a new one. Retaining its unmistakably G-Wagon-esque silhouette, complete with those sunken headlights that look like they're frowning against a dust storm, the Gurkha now has an even more imposing stance.
Because what they've done is fix the ground clearance at the front. If you looked at the older vehicle, it sort of had a squat stance in the front. Those suspension elements, those suspension arms, they felt like they were, sort of converging downward. Now they are more in line, more parallel to the ground. And that is why it looks slightly taller, a bit more imposing. Another thing that adds to that effect is the new 18-inch wheels. And for some reason, the design is a bit too much like Mercedes-Benz, is what I feel.
Add to that the rugged accessories like the roof rack, the windshield bars and a snorkel, and you have a design that screams, "I eat river crossings for breakfast." Unfortunately, the off-road course that Force designed for us was pretty basic to say the least, but it gives you a fair idea of the Gurkha's capabilities. Take a look.
So you have a 35-degree approach angle and a 37-degree departure angle, which means that even on a slightly more extreme slope like this, the car doesn't really scrape itself anywhere. Next up, we have the side slopes, and this is where the big ground clearance of this vehicle is again put to the test. 233 millimeters. Especially at the front, they've improved the ground clearance so that you can see now it doesn't really scrape anywhere, even on this kind of terrain. The breakover angle is very nicely visible. The vehicle did not scrape itself anywhere. Next up, we have the articulation course. Of course, monsoons are coming. This is what the potholes are going to look like. And again, that is not going to worry the Gurkha at all. It just gracefully goes through all of that without breaking a sweat. And finally, you have a drop again, which is where the approach angle, the departure angle is again going to come into play. Now, even if this was filled with water, the Gurkha has 700 millimeters of water wading capability. And with that big snorkel, again, walk in the park. In fact, that is what this off-road course feels like, a walk in the park, right? Because it's not a very hardcore course. But remember, people pick up the Gurkha and do it up for stuff like the Rainforest Challenge, which is absolutely hardcore. And even there, the vehicle shines. So this feeling like a walk in the park is, well, expected from a vehicle like the Gurkha.
Astonishingly, even the Fido variant feels at home doing all of this stuff despite the longer wheelbase that it rolls on.
The visibility is excellent, as you would want in an off-road vehicle. When you sit in the car for the first time, you feel that, oh, the seats are so high. The steering wheel, despite being tilt and telescopically adjustable, it just feels so low. You're sitting so high. But when you go on treacherous terrain like this, you suddenly realize that the visibility is just excellent. That seating posture is just perfect to give you that proper, perfect commanding view of the road. Well, it just works perfectly well. So what is the difference between the Fido and the 3-door, you may ask? Well, the obvious differences are going to be in the length, in the wheelbase, a little bit on the height. This is 15 millimeters taller, 26 millimeters if you also take the roof rack into consideration. But apart from that, what really changes is the amount of space that this car is going to give you inside the cabin. So let's get in there and check what it's all about.
Inside this burly beast, it's a tale of two variants. A cozy 3-door seating for 4 adults comfortably, and a new, family-friendly 5-door stretching its legs to accommodate 6 adults and a small tot.
At least at the moment, Force is not offering different variants for the seating for the 3-row variant. So what you get is a bench seat in the middle. You don't get captain seats here. The captain seats are going to be at the back. You're going to get Isofix style seat mounts on either ends, and the headrests are also going to be on either ends only. So you can either put your children in the child seat mounts here, or if it's a slightly older child and is not going to sit in the child seat, they're going to go here. So ideally this cabin is good enough for 6 adults and 1 kid. Now, to get into the rear, you still have to go at the back, open the 5th door, literally have to duck walk your way into the cabin. And one good thing is, the door is within easy reach. You don't really need anyone to close it for you. And they've also done this rubber hinge on it, so there's a bit of tension on it, so it easily closes. So that's a very thoughtful addition. Another thoughtful addition is that you get 3-point seat belts for all the occupants. Now in terms of the space, the knee room is actually quite good. Headroom is pretty decent too, but as we've seen with the previous Gurkha, the 3-door version as well, the window line is slightly lower. So getting your view outside of the car for taller passengers might be a bit of an issue, but honestly, I don't think it's too much of a problem. It gives you a nice and airy feel. And unlike the 3-door variant, you do get roof-mounted AC vents, which means that the circulation for the air is actually quite good too. Now, foot space is a bit of a problem with this wheel arch right here. So for long distance journeys, it can get a bit cumbersome. What I also like is that these headrests are adjustable, which means they will offer better whiplash protection in case of an accident. These are proper captain seats, so even the comfort is quite good. But these seats are also what you're going to use for your bag, or bagwati if you might want to crack that joke, because you see the seats are not collapsible, so you don't really get any boot space. You will have to put all your stuff right in here, manage it somehow over the seats, under the seats, etc. I mean, if you want to use it like a 5-seater and then completely remove the seats, that is one option too, but those seats are not going to be easily removable. You're going to need tools for that. But again, Ford says most of their customers are DIY guys, so they like to do all of this stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this is a bit of a wasted opportunity. These should have been jump seats or easily removable seats so that it would have been more practical. At least for now, the way I see it, the 3-door is still the more practical car out of the two. So the cabin continues to feel a bit low rent with the shiny plastics, the inconsistent panel gaps, the sharp edges here and there, especially on the doorknobs, etc. So it still gives you that feeling that it is a few steps back compared to today's times in terms of absolute quality and fit and finish. Now in terms of the infotainment, they've given you a new 9-inch unit, which is standard for the 3-door as well as the 5-door variant. But they have not really created a bespoke infotainment system. They've simply taken a big display, a big head unit from Nippon and plonked it into this vehicle, which in a way is okay because it gives you most of the functionality that you want, and it's easier to just replace or fix in case there is a failure. But at the same time, it is a bit cumbersome because you see, even to get your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of that working, I've still not been able to get it working. You need a different app. You need to use that app to pair your phone to this particular device. You can't just directly do it like you would with any other infotainment system. And only then it starts activating these different functionalities, and it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. So I'm not too happy with that. It should have been more straightforward. You do get 2 USB ports, but they are not really going to activate CarPlay or Android Auto for you. You do get Google Maps as a standard addition to the screen, but again, it needs to pair with your phone, use internet from your phone for you to be able to use the Google Maps. So you will need offline maps to be loaded in this in case you're going to go, in the wilderness and maybe get lost, because you may not have cell phone network to find your way out again. So those offline maps just might help. Interestingly, however, there's also a gear indicator, but it only indicates whether you are in neutral, reverse or drive. This is a manual transmission. The manual is the only option that you can get with the Gurkha, and no matter what gear you are in, it's just going to tell you D when you are in the forward gears. That's it. So it's drive, reverse and neutral that will display. Is that a hint that an automatic is coming? I don't know. But I think an automatic will definitely make a lot of sense for this vehicle, because you see, the manual is something that the purists will like. The clutch is not too heavy. It's something that most people should be easy with, but people today want the convenience of an automatic, even if it's a niche product like the Gurkha. And not having an automatic at all is a bit of a missed opportunity, is what I feel. So I hope they have an auto in the works. Powering the car is the same 2.6 litre diesel engine, but the power and torque outputs have been improved. It's in fact exactly similar to the 2.2 BS4 engine that we had back in the day. So you get 140 PS, 320 Newton meters of torque. Gone is that 90 PS engine. Both the 3-door and the 5-door variant get the same engine with the same output. In the 1000 to 1700 RPM zone, there is sort of a flat spot, and you have to be in lower gears to be able to pull cleanly. If you are in third gear and doing maybe 40 kilometers an hour, trying to pull from there on emits a lot of engine noise, a lot of vibrations fill into the cabin. So that's not a very nice feeling. On that note, the engine, not the most refined, especially in slow moving traffic where you have to slow down and then again try and build speed. There is a lot of that diesel clatter, a lot of vibrations creeping into the cabin. So yes, despite the power output, it doesn't really feel very punchy, but it doesn't feel sluggish the way the 90 PS engine did. It still feels very utilitarian, especially when you put all these vibrations, the engine noise, the performance, and the scratchy plastics all together. It just gives you a very utilitarian experience inside the car.
The engine needs AdBlue injection, and as before, there are two flaps, diesel on the right and AdBlue on the left, both remotely openable now.
Some people say that some people get confused between where to fill the diesel and where to fill the AdBlue. Another good thing that they've done is added shift on the fly for the 2-wheel drive and the 4-wheel drive mode. So you get 2-wheel drive, which you will do most of your driving in, then you have the 4 high and the 4 low, and you can do that on the fly. What that essentially helps you also is liberate more space in the tunnel console for your knickknacks, and it just makes life more convenient when you just want to quickly shift from rear wheel to all wheel. So to sum it up, as before, the Gurkha continues to be an offering that is going to be very accessible, both in its 3-door and its 5-door avatar compared to the rivals. You get some really good kit when you want to go off-roading. In fact, if off-roading is what you want to do and you want to do that on a budget, then the Gurkha could make a lot more sense compared to something like the Mahindra Thar or even the Suzuki Jimny. It gives you a big size, it gives you definitely a lot of space and a decent engine and excellent off-road capabilities as well.